This is Ant Lyons from Your Property Network magazine, and I'm joined today by a really good friend of mine and someone I've known for probably around about a decade or more. So Rory O'Mara, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Ant. No, thanks very much. We've got a few minutes to have a little chat today, so appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so Rory is the founder, the main man, the boss, the big cheese at closebridgingfinance.com, and Rory is very much one of my go-to guys. So if I don't know how to finance something, or if I've got friends or other developers who want to know how to raise money for something, he's the man I direct them to.
Yep, nice.
So we're going to do it in about 10 minutes today.
Yep,
so I've got to watch here in front of me. A sort of overview guide to HMO finance, and whether or not you're just starting out or a slightly more experienced HMO investor, because I honestly believe that HMO finance is the least understood, the most misunderstood topic that's discussed on property forums and in articles and online. So we're going to talk about two scenarios today, one of which being someone who is new to HMO investing. Is that right?
Absolutely. So let's start with that one, Ant. So folks, you're a newbie investor. You've decided you'd like to make some money in buy-to-let, not looking at single lets, but an HMO, so a house of multiple occupancy. So you find a rundown property. So your situation is, as a newbie, you don't have any investment experience or a buy-to-let, but it is possible to get bridging finance, and it is also possible to find a term lender who will take out the bridging loan based on your experience. So if I give you some basic information, so let's say it's an ex-local authority home, buy at around 100,000 for simple mathematics. Keeping it simple, the refurb, the stamp duty, the legals, all in at around 50. So you're in at 150,000. We're expecting an end value based on a brick and mortar value in the region of 175,000. So, and the goal after that would be to get a 75% loan to value mortgage on 175 value, which would give you a mortgage of about 130 odd thousand. So that's the goal.
I'm just going to dive in really quickly and say we're talking about bridging and a term lender, because what you're almost certainly not going to do with most lenders is to buy it on one mortgage and then expect to do the works and improve the property, are you? And that's the mistake that we see some people falling into that trap.
Absolutely, and that's a good point. If you were to buy a property using a regular mortgage, not in even an HMO mortgage, I would throw the words, potentially it's mortgage fraud. Tread very, very carefully. I know people do it, the lenders find out, and they're not happy, specifically if it's a regular, normal buy-to-let mortgage. But the right way to do it is you get some bridging funds or your own cash, you do the work, then you refinance. So in this example, let's say we're allowing 6 months, and on a project of that size where you're all in it, maybe say 50K, including costs. So let's look at the bridging component. The bridging element, you should get somewhere around a 70% gross loan to value. So we're buying at 100, so 70% of that is 70K. The lender will normally charge an arrangement fee of about 2%. And for the purpose of this illustration, I'm going to work on 1% interest per month on the bridge. So we're going to get a 70K gross loan. 1% of that works out at about £700 a month. If we're running that over a 6-month period, so £700 a month times 6 is 4,200, plus the lender arrangement fee, which was 2%, so that was 1,400. So we're in for costs of about 5,600. Separate to that would be a valuation fee and the legal fee, which is the legal fee for the lender. I've thrown a budget in here of about 1,600. But the key question, folks, is this: what is my net advance from the lender on the day of completion? In this example, gross 70, deduct the arrangement fee and the interest for the 6-month period, you'll end up with around 62,800. So 62,800. You're buying at 100. You need to put 37,200 into the deal. That excludes the broker fee, because that will depend on what the fee will be, and that excludes the refurb costs, which we had budgeted around 50K all in. So I'm just looking at the bridging costs. So you'd have to bring those to the table. So your builder goes in, cracks on, does the schedule of works, does the cost of works, everything's tickety-boo, ready to now exit the bridge. You're a first-time landlord, you are restricted. Some of the challenger banks will not lend to you. You don't own any buy-to-lets or any HMOs, but there are one or two lenders who will. So in this example, we've gone to a separate bridging company, and now we've gone to look at a separate lender, and you would be looking at, just to give you an idea, yes, it is possible to get an 80% loan to value. On an 80%, you could get a fixed 5-year term product for approximately 4.59%. So I always work on it costing about 5%, so that's pretty good. The lender arrangement fee would be about 2%. So you'd end up, in this example, we said we believe the property was worth 175. If we can get 80% of that, that's going to give you a mortgage of maybe 140. If we work on that premise, our costs, if you recall, were 100 to buy, 50 for the refurb and the stamp and your legals to acquire. I'll also include the refinance legals, and then the cost of the bridging loan. So we're in about 157,200, mortgage of 140. You've just left 17,200 in the deal. That's not bad. Sometimes you have to leave money in the deal. I know people tell you you need to take it all out. I disagree. You definitely do not want to be overgeared, in my opinion, because if we take a dip and you're highly geared, you don't want to sink.
And in your opinion, what would you be looking for? If this is your HMO, what would you be looking for as a return on that capital invested? So we've got broadly £17,000 left in there. Obviously, it's going to be different for different people in different areas and different comfort factors. What, if it was one of yours, what would you be happy with?
Actually, that's a really good question. I'll tell you what, guys, it's very, very simple. I compare investing in an HMO with other asset classes. And if I can secure a 10% return on my cash, i.e. the cash that I've left in the deal, and bearing in mind, this isn't a limited company, the 10% gross, am I going to get a 10% or more return consistently? This doesn't include any capital growth, by the way, but consistently comparing it to putting money in bonds or equities or any other investment, be it fine wine, crypto, etc., etc. So I would look at this and go 10% minimum. What I'm really after is 20. Now in this illustration, and I know I've made this up, but I don't think it's a million miles off. We've got 5 letting rooms. We should generate, I think I put down on here, say, if we're working on 475 a month per room, which I don't think is outrageous, that's 2375 a month. So that works out, if we give you the broad numbers, 2100. A mortgage on, the mortgage cost on 140K mortgage interest only is about 536. Less some bills, budget 120 per room per month times the 5. So that comes in at 600. So I've got a gross profit of 964. So you'd make about 11.5K gross before tax and any other costs. But that's going to cover your council tax, your gas and your electric, etc. Now, if we take that, we've left 17,200 in, and let's just assume this is correct. We make about 11,500 profit before tax. That's a 67% return on cash. It's phenomenal. So even if you had some voids and some extra bills, you would most definitely be making your 10, 15, 20% return on cash.
Okay, perfect. Now, you mentioned the bricks and mortar valuation, and so that's not taking into account the property being valued as a sort of commercial entity. Now, this is where we get into this grey area, and we're not going to spend too much time on it today. As we move towards a more professional, more experienced investor, then we are going to be looking at different format for evaluation potentially. So how would this be treated differently if we had perhaps buy-to-let experience or an HMO or two under our belts already?
Okay, so in this document I put together, I thought exactly that. So let's take an experienced HMO investor. Similar to the last project, it's an ex-local authority property, but you've got to be able to justify the commercial valuation. So we could go to one of the challenger banks, perhaps, where we would have the ability to perhaps even get the bridging loan from them and the value upfront before we bought it based on the works, the schedule and cost of works. But you've got to turn it into a commercial proposition. Have a chat with surveyors, but it's important to understand this, folks. There's residential property and there's proper commercial. In a red book valuation, unless it's changed recently, there is no such thing as an HMO. It doesn't exist as either commercial or resi. It's a sort of a hybrid, which is why the valuers often struggle. And I think the answer is this. It will be down to the valuer to determine what the value is. They hold the key. So you can go to ABC lender. They will give an instruction. Two separate valuers could give you two different opinions. And I know that from my own experience because of some HMOs that we bought. We wanted them valued on income. But if you take these numbers briefly, so we buy at 100, but our cost of work's a little bit higher, say 65K, we could go to, we should get a slightly lower bridging rate. So we should be able to push in maybe 75% loan to value, not the 70 in the previous example. And we can sometimes get those rates down to about 0.85% per month. We're getting a loan of 75K on the bridge. That's going to cost you about $638 a month. It's not outrageous. When we add in an arrangement fee of about 1.95%, those costs plus a budget for evaluation and lender legals, you're going to end up with a net advance of maybe 68,000 or thereabouts, or 71 if you service the debt monthly. So we've done the refurb. You could get this done and dusted under 6 months and not be subject to the 6-month rule, i.e. in and out 3 months, then the lender will go back, re-inspect, and then look to then draw down the term loan. Now, let's get to the valuation bit. So everyone has an opinion. The person whose opinion counts is the valuer because he or she calls the shots and they'll tell you what it is. You can't second guess them, which is why it's good to try and get an idea up front. But if we look at my simple illustration here, we've gone to a 5-bed, 5-bath. So that is not a normal house. It's going to be difficult to turn that or rent that back to a normal family. So I put some simple numbers together here on rental. So say 5 rooms at say 475 a month. So we're in at 2375 on rental. So that comes in around 28,500 a year. So here's what I would expect a valuer to do. They will make some deduction. That deduction could be 10%, 15%, or 20%. It's down to them. I've seen a 50% deduction for costs, but let's take 20%. So if we're in at 28,500 gross rent, if we take 20%, which is 5,700, we'll be left with a net figure of around 22,800. I'm going to crudely use a 10% capitalization figure. So that says, in theory, the investment value is worth about 228,000.
Yeah.
However, I would also expect, certainly with stuff that we've used with Lloyd's Commercial, when the valuer has gone out, they've also come back and said, no, we need to put in there what we call a VP, a vacant possession value. So you have this investment value, and then there's the vacant possession value is what is this property worth empty? And in this one, I reckon the VP, if it's got an investment value of maybe 228, it's probably worth 200. They're going to look at the price you paid for it. They're going to look how much money you've spent on it. And it would probably be in that region. And the valuer's job is to now go out and find comparables. And there's the problem. Not many HMOs get sold. So it's quite tough to get comps. You can get comps on the same house, but not as an HMO. But this is now a 5-bed, 5-bath. So crudely speaking, I'd expect it to come in somewhere maybe in the region of around 200. We should be able to get then from that particular lender, maybe 70, 75% loan to value. And in this example, if I take a 75% on a fixed 5-year term, you're going to be looking at a rate somewhere around 4.59%. Obviously, these rates, this is not advice because I'm just trying to give some for education purposes only.
It's just illustrations of, taking a snapshot of what's roughly about right now, but that's subject to change. So,
but in this example, let's come back to the numbers. So we've got rents of around 2,375 a month, the interest only mortgage about 574, bills at about 650, with budget 130 per room per month based on the 5 rooms. So we're going to make a gross profit of about 1,100 odd pounds, give or take. It's about 13,000 a year. Cash left in. Obviously, our refurb costs were slightly higher, so cash left in is just under 32K. Profit of about 13.8. You're going to make about 43% return on cash. Even if we throw extra costs at this, you're still going to meet your 10, 15, 20% return on cash.
Okay. Now, obviously, the trick is always as we grow a property business, not running out of money. We're going to be talking about that in future videos as well, of the other strategies that we can employ to bring capital into a business so we can continue to grow our portfolio. But I think really, really useful overview today on HMO finance for beginners and HMO finance if we're slightly more experienced, the difference between the two, and why they're different as well. So I wanted to just say that obviously, if you need finance, if you're watching this, then Rory is very much our go-to guy. So Rory, what's the best way of people reaching out and making contact with yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of an old dinosaur, folks. Email is a great way to get hold of me because I respond very quickly. The email address is very simple, info@closedbridgingfinance.com, or you can pick up the telephone 01962 885 927. I mean, just to be clear, we do all this stuff. We do bridging development, commercial finance, but those are the ways you can get hold of me, and I'm always happy to help if I can.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, I would say my recommendation would be to go and download the handout that Rory's actually reading from now. You can get a copy of that at yourpropertynetwork.co.uk/start. So there's loads of resources on there. If it was me, I'd print it off and watch this video again because there's quite a lot to absorb. So Rory, thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege catching up once again and picking your brains. And I look forward to catching up with you on future vids.
That's great. Thank you very much. Always happy to help.